Now, before we wrap up this session, there's another way emotion-focused coping can be helpful if used effectively. Let's say I'm upset. I'm upset about my work. My workload is too heavy, and I'm feeling so overwhelmed that I go straight to emotion-focused coping. Now, if I go to my social support person, the first thing I'd probably do is vent. Let's say I go to my friend and I complain and complain and complain. Now, if every time my friend sees me I'm complaining, pretty soon she's going to be tired of talking to me because all I ever do is complain. So what's happening is that I'm using emotion-focused coping in a way that's not effective. It's not helping me, and it's causing my friend to withdraw from me because the relationship is not mutual. What I need to do is use my friend wisely. So I say to myself, I'm going to vent because I'm acknowledging I'm overwhelmed. I'm about to lose it. But I'm going to be smart. I'm going to go to my friend with intention. That's the key word, intention. I'm going to say, I'm so overwhelmed, I just don't know if I can handle it anymore. Eventually, I'm wanting some help in getting back to problem-focused coping. I want my friends to empathize with me, but I'm hoping they can step outside of my personal situation and say, here's what I think you can do. They might help me make a plan or think about my situation differently. They might help me accept the reality of my situation and within that reality take action where I can take action. Maybe tell me someone who can provide valuable insight or help me feel reaffirmed. So if I go to them with the intention of letting them help me get back to problem-focused coping, then it's helpful. If I go without that intention, and all we ever do is vent to each other, then we're all stuck in emotion-focused coping. So emotion-focused coping is helpful in the short term when we're feeling emotionally overwhelmed or when things are out of your control. You want to have the awareness that's where you're going. And you're going there with the intention of popping a cork off, so to speak, and letting some emotions out of yourself so you can get stabilized. You're going there in the short term until you can figure out how to handle the situation. Now let's review the resiliency model. If you remember, the 4 ways people respond to stress are give up, put up, bounce up, and step up. Of these 4, which ones are linked to emotion-focused coping strategies? When we're using emotion-focused coping over the long haul, we're in give up or put up. When we use problem-focused coping, we're in bounce up and step up, and that's what we're going for. Now, before we stop, I want to briefly tell you about a famous physics professor named Ilya Prigogine. He was a professor at the University of Texas and just recently passed away. While at Texas, Dr. Prigogine won a Nobel Prize for his work describing how natural systems transform and become more complex systems over time. Dr. Prigogine's work in physics applies beautifully to our work in resilience. The way I understand his theory the best is to think about exercise. If you've ever lifted weights or gone for a jog, you purposely overload your muscles, right? Your muscles become vulnerable, maybe even shake, but you overload them because you're wanting the opportunity to grow physically. Psychological growth is no different. Some stress is good. Now, you don't purposely stress yourself out, just like you don't purposely lift so much weight that you overtrain and get injured. At the same time, if you don't stress your muscles some, they will atrophy. So both overtraining or too much stress and undertraining or too little stress is not helpful. You purposely stress your muscles and then you relax and recover. In fact, it's the relaxation and recovery that's most important because that's when muscle growth actually occurs. So we want to begin to look at psychological growth just like lifting weights or exercising. When life throws us a curveball, we can begin to think, okay, I'm lifting weights now. Psychologically, my system is simply overloaded and I'm vulnerable. But I have a tremendous opportunity to grow if I can just stay engaged and then relax and recover. In other words, we begin to train psychologically using the same principles we use to train physically. What we're going to work on doing when we're stressed, lifting weights so to speak, is three things, which are the 3 C's we spoke about before. And this is the heart of our resiliency curriculum. We want to take responsibility, which is taking control. We want to focus on empowering interpretations, which means perceiving or thinking about situations as a challenge. Finally, we want to create meaningful connections, to stay committed to the important projects and people in our lives, even though we may feel mad and disconnected. So to summarize, you've identified 2 stressful situations that you'd like to transform from give up or put up to bounce up and step up. And you've created a mental image of the outcome you want in each of these situations. You've also learned the difference between problem-focused coping and emotion-focused coping, and how to use each effectively. Finally, you now realize that the same principles that apply to physical growth also apply to psychological growth. Next session, we'll work on the first component of the resiliency curriculum, taking responsibility. For now, I want to thank you and ask you to please print out your assignment and reading materials